Sham Sundar Giridhari Ji Ki Jai, Jai Jagat Guru Srila Om Vishnupad Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Leela Pravishna Vishnupad Paramahansa Kuluchuramani Sarvashastra Siddhantavit Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Rupanuga Guru Bhagya Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai, Jai Sripad Bhakti Swarup Tridandi Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari 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 Gaur. So, welcome everyone to our regular Sunday afternoon broadcast from the East London branch Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. As we have been going through the seminal works of our founder Acharya Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, week by week, and at the moment just on the sermons of the Guardian of Devotion. But this week we have with us a very special guest, Sripad Bhakti Swarup Tridandi Maharaj, who is himself a disciple of Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Maharaj, and a long-time sannyasi from Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, carrying the flag of Chaitanya Saraswat Math all over the world, and responsible for many of the publications of our mission, especially of the talks of our Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And just now, just a few weeks ago, from his hard work, another new book of our Divine Master Om Vishnupad Srila Sridhar Maharaj has come out, which is called In the Light of Loving Devotion. And we're very fortunate Maharaj is with us today. He may read some extracts from that, or may say something about that, or as he likes, but we are very happy to have him with us today. So, Maharaj, without further ado, I'll pass the microphone to you.
So hold it.
No, you just clip it on somewhere convenient. Hare Krishna. Got it?
Yeah.
Let me do that for you. Then it will be somewhere close. So. There you go. How's that?
Welcome everybody. So what's your name?
Patrick.
Pardon?
Patrick.
I've seen you before.
Yeah, long time.
Around,
He
yeah?
keeps coming every week now.
Yeah, okay.
They've converted him.
Can I just start by reading the translation of this, the one we just sung, Shri Gora Hari Kushuma Stavashtakam. I've never come across it. Oh, beautiful. The son of Maharaj Nanda, Swami Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, is now illustrious in his divine form of Sri Guru. He is beautiful and highly exalted, bearing his golden persona. So Sridhar Maharaj's Sanskrit is quite very involved, complex and deep, so there's different meanings that can be taken out. So they're giving or he is beautiful and highly exalted within the golden land of his divine abode. He is the eminent lifeboat that rescues the souls of this world. Serve that Lord Gora Hari, worship Gora Hari, the last name, Bhaja Gora Harim, Bhaja Gora Harim. So serve and worship, taking it from the same word that we. Sorry.
Oh, you're passing it
No,
around.
no, no.
Okay.
adorned with the heart and halo of Srimati Radharani, Vrishabhanu Sutta, having dived deeply into the reality of his own wonderful beauty and sweetness, he is sweetly intoxicated in the perpetual distribution of his own holy name. Serve that Lord, Gaura Hari, worship Gaura Hari.
Okay. He manifested the full glory of Srinath's Dham as he appeared in his radiant gold, all-auspicious form of divine ecstasy, ever engaged in Krishna Kirtan, which is a festival for the tongue. Serve that Lord Gaura Hari, worship Gaura Hari.
He gave the spirituality auspicious darshan of his external associates to the world, or he gave his spirituality auspicious darshan to his external associates. Internal associates. He drove the masses of people mad with the nectar of his spirituality, all suspicious name, vanquishing all sins from the core of their hearts. Serve that Lord, Gaura Hari, worship Gaura Hari. Next page.
He intensely described the spiritual fortune of his own divine name. He did not agree of fruitful the path of the endowing the material wealth. I lusty material desire or grand material dreams. As he captured his poetry, he widely made available the fifth end of the which he had ever been given before in his world, the divine love of Krishna found in the Lord of original divine abode of Gokula, Vrindavan. Serve the Lord, Gaura Hari, worship Gaura Hari.
He is the great benefactor whose heart is melted with compassion for the fallen, and out of that feeling in his heart, he accepted the dress of a beggar, the renounced order of life, sannyas. After accepting this dress, he took shelter in Nilachala, Jagannath Puri. Serve that Lord, Gaura Hari. Worship Gaura Hari.
He is the resplendent golden personality glorified by the scriptures and saints. He is the greatest distributor of spontaneous loving divine service, pure transcendental attachment and service to the Lord, free from all mundanity. He is the Lord whose glories are sung throughout the scriptures describing transcendental knowledge, Puranas, or he is the Lord who takes away all apparent discord found within the Puranas, revelation of transcendental knowledge. Serve that Lord, Gaura Hari, worship Gaura Hari.
He performed greatly maddened dancing and chanting amidst the wonderful sounds of the Kardai and Tridandi, as he was shown great affection and honor by the fallen souls. He is the grand abode of divine peace and relief for one and all. Serve that Lord, Sri Gaura Hari, worship Sri Gaura Hari.
Srila Maharaj's amazing attachment and realization about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which originally his family worshipping Sri Ramachandra, right? His family lineage. He said he came to appreciate the Krishna consciousness. You can't separate Krishna consciousness from Chaitanya, of course. Lord Chaitanya's name, Sannyas name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya, which literally means the consciousness of Krishna, the divine consciousness of Krishna. So he said he came to appreciate Krishna consciousness through Mahaprabhu, through reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the conception of Mahaprabhu as Radha Krishna Unmilitam. So from his extreme orthodox and moralistic background, and Krishna, the liar, the cheat, the debauchee, so-called, from material point of view. As you know, the Christian missionaries dismissed Krishna consciousness because of that, or worshipping this mad debauchee god. But we know that, the absolute truth, beauty, consciousness and bliss, then whatever he does, so he's cheating, he's lying, what is appearing ordinary immoral things, becomes the most exalted, the sweetest and the deepest form of transcendental knowledge and understanding. So that was from an extreme, from one side you can say extremely into the other side of Mahaprabhu's appreciation of his life and teachings, and from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his own Gurudev, who is said to be the personification of Krishna Sankirtan, of course. And so this book's a little bit different, and I'll just read the foreword, because that will explain to you a little bit about the conception behind it. And I've said, we are honoured to have the opportunity to present the teachings of His Divine Grace Srila Sridhar Maharaj in this volume, In the Light of Loving Devotion. Our approach in presenting this book is a little different from that of previous books of His Divine Grace, such as those so ably compiled by Sripad B.S. Goswami Maharaj and others, such as Sri Krishna, as you know, Sri Guru and His Grace, Column Volcano of Divine Love, and many more. Though the topics covered herein by Srila Sridhar Maharaj are of eternal nature and value, it is nevertheless, from a relative viewpoint, now over 30 years, 35 now, since His Divine Grace withdrew from among us in 1988 to enter the eternal pastimes of the Lord. Thus newcomers to His teachings, whether through books, the recorded talks and videos, or indeed the association with His initiated disciples, or those who had direct association with Him, especially the very embodiment of His mercy, Srila B.S. Govinda Maharaj, his successor Sevacharya, Srila Gurudev. These souls may be unfamiliar with Srila Sridhar Maharaj's particular and unique way of presenting and explaining Krishna consciousness. His delivery was always sweet in style and profound in content, emphasizing the positive and progressive nature of true development in love for the Lord, and covering all important aspects of Vedic truth, including the divine pastimes of Sri Sri Radha Govinda and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he did this in a very careful and protective way to avoid the pitfalls and misconceptions to which many seeking souls without expert guidance may easily fall prey. While the text of this book then stands on its own, we felt that for the newcomer to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, or Bhakti Yoga and Christian consciousness in general, some notations would be helpful, etc., etc. So then, as the three parts of this book suggest, the talks follow a kind of progression which can be seen to fall roughly into the aspects Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojan. There's three aspects in Christian consciousness. Are you familiar with that?
Perhaps you can explain to
Explain
the
it, okay.
audience.
So it's like Sambandha means relationship, relationship and environment. I'll explain later. Abhideya is literally Abhideya, the means to the end, and Prayojan means the goal, the end goal, the destination, which is Prema, Krishna Prema. So you have these all together. So although they follow in a linear order, first you have Sambandha, relationship, like means to understand who I am, in relationship to the Lord. And who is the Lord? How He's omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, and more than that, the essence of sweetness, rasam, that's Sambandha. And what is my relationship with Him? And what is my relationship with His other energies, the material energy, Maya, and the other jiva souls, and so on. That's Sambandha. So based on that knowledge, that understanding, we practice. That's called Abhideya, the means to the end. How we go from where we are presently to go up towards Krishna, Abhideya. And Prayojan means the destination, the achievement, Prayojan, love with God. So 3 parts in the book, 1, 2 and 3, they roughly correspond to that. But, I've said, because the way that Srila Guru Maharaj talks, and the way he speaks, it's not an exclusive division. It's not like, oh, we do Sambandha, and then at a certain point on, 5th of January, 2022, that's finished. Now I've gone into Abhidaya now. Hopefully that will last more than about 10 years, and then we go into Prayojan. It's not like that. Not a linear progression. There's interpenetration and overlap between them. So, however developed a person is, sometimes they may find themselves to be reassessing. It's like we have, in any field of life, you have a study, and then you can get very high in that field of work. But sometimes they have a refresher course, isn't it? And they say, okay, now everybody, we're doing a refresher course. I go back to basics. Okay, what's the foundation of all of this? What are we doing? So Sambandha is like that, and sometimes we have to return to that. And of course, along the way, a lot of vigilance is required. That's also mentioned later on about practicing with mindfulness and not blindly or robotically, to be conscious of what we're doing and how we're doing. So that was the idea. So when the idea for the book came, I originally, because the other books I had helped to make, they were done mainly from tapes in those days, cassette tapes, they had the old cassette tapes. Remember those? Press the button and like that. And we had to do it on this machine with a foot pedal, you stop it, hear what Guru Maharaj is saying on the recording, stop it, and then transcribe it, and then start again. It was quite a lengthy process. Then of course they went to CDs and then MP3s, and then it all went digital. So at that time I wanted to do another book of Sridhar Maharaj because I knew the material was there, but I couldn't get hold of the talks. I knew that some devotees had the MP3s and the recordings, but at the same time they were sort of very, very protective of them. And have to ask them and send them back, and it became very complicated. But then Ramananda Prabhu in Hatton Cross, he gave me an iPod. I didn't know anything about, but with the complete archive of Sridhar Maharaj on it. So, what a fantastic present to get, So I started thinking, it started coming in more concrete form, well, this is actually could be possible to make a book here. So, but then the question was, well, where to start? Because there's so much material over, from say about when they started recording, 1979-80, up to very close, up to about 85 and a little bit 86. So Guru Maharaj, they recorded talks, So in any year there's 12 months, and how many times in a month? Sometimes most days he'd be talking, or sometimes missing some days, but literally hundreds and thousands of hours. So I thought, how am I going to get something in a coherent form to make a book on a theme, on a particular theme? So I thought I can't start at the beginning, 1981, then just start listening, go right through. I'd just be too exhausting, so I thought, okay, the only way to approach this, I'll have to just literally, like when you put your pin in a map, like that, So I literally just scrolled through and said, whatever, I'll just pick at random. So, like 5th of June, 1984, for example. Okay, listen, okay. And when I was doing it that way, it came up very nicely together in just the right ones. That's Krishna's mercy and Krishna's arrangement, like that. I didn't have to go around searching around too much, So then also I had the question, once you had all the material there, and it was all written by hand, so I don't use computer. I did one of the books, I think, with a computer, but I don't have a computer now, and I don't really like to use it, so it's all by hand, and then all those pages were photocopied, sent to my friend in Ireland, Mother Subhasini, in Wexford. She would then type it, and then call back to me and read it out, and I would correct it as she's reading. So that was the first editing, and she had it all on the stick, they call it. Right.
Thumb drive.
Thumb drive. And then that was, of course, given then to Sripad Madhusudana Maharaj, who basically did the book, I mean, in this beautiful format. That was another thing, because hardback, I thought it would be in, I was imagining it would be in paperback. You know, in my mind, it was something like Search for Sri Krishna, sort of glossy paperback. And in fact, I did, when I was here actually in Queen Street on one of the festivals, maybe it was because of the festival, I don't know, but I was thinking about the title and the cover very much. And then it came to me about that, in the light of loving devotion. You know, because it's very gentle and not too kind of pointed, you know, like saying, with the word, you know, Krishna or Gauranga in it as such, you know, but loving devotion. And so from that, then I got an idea about a cover, which was like two hands going like this and doing Pushpanjali with the light behind, like a sunrise behind. So in that light, devotion, and the flowers are coming out. So I did a sketch downstairs in the basement, just in an exercise book with some pencil. And there's one Prabhu who's gone back to South America now. I said, because I don't know how to do this, but so can you photo that and send it to them in Italy, because they have the very good artists, Manindra Mohan, Krishna Kandi, etc. So he sent that off, just this sketch, you know, on myself, and then he sent back within a few days a picture on my phone of it. Was very beautiful, and yeah. And he said, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think, you know, any corrections, adjustments. I said, that's fantastic. I couldn't possibly even improve that. But it's not this one. It turned out differently. Because that was quite bright, you know, bright yellow, and it was big. The hands were covering the whole page of the cover. Not like this, you see? How they've done it like that. So when the books came, they delivered them to my friend's house in Bournemouth, 1,000 books. It was like 50 boxes. There's nobody there, so I had to unload them myself to put them all under the staircase of his house. It wasn't as bad as I thought, actually, because the box was only like that, quite small. And I was saying to myself, okay, I'm not going to look at this, it's so special. I'll just wait, you know, when they're all stacked away, and maybe this evening I get some spare minutes, you know, then I'll reverently look, you know. But my friend, whose house it is, he's a friend of devotees, you'd say, and he runs a local health food shop down in Bournemouth called Earth Food. So he said, oh, I know I want to look at it, and he opened the box like that with his pen, and the box all fell apart, and the books all fell out on the floor. And I just glanced at it and thought, oh my God, they haven't done my cover. You know, that's my first thought. You know, and I put them all up and everything. Then I looked again, and thought, oh, it's beautiful. Actually better, you know, because it's more toned down and more sober. And if you look carefully, you can actually see the sun there. But if you look carefully, you can see the rays coming out. Kiran, and coming up on all sides. How they've done it with the Ganga, and they put the hands in there, but smaller and with a lotus flower. Very, very nice. Yeah. I didn't know any of this until I actually saw it, you know, and hardback also. So that's all very nice. So there's some books here, a box of them here. If anyone would like them, incidentally, we're just saying, if you like a book, please donate to the temple here, or to Hatton Cross. saying £10 for the book. So, what would you like me to read? Anything? Some of it? Read a bit? Yeah, some of the talks here are specifically a little bit, from my point of view, something a little bit more, let's say, edgy, like a bit, more, some points of understanding which are quite deep and quite special that, well, at least haven't been seen in other books, but, so, let's see this one. I'll just read random. We started reading it in Hatton Cross from the beginning, but this is chapter 13. Again, it's in part 2, the journey home, which is kind of Abhidheya, and it's called Revealed Truth Unlimited. Intensified search, and a devotee asks, it seems that sometimes, both in our preaching and in our devotional service life in general, and also, because sometimes it's not clear what they're saying from the transcript, or there's bits missing, so we have to make it into a coherent question. If there's interruptions and things like that, or the recording's not very good. So once you understand the gist of what they're actually asking, what the question is, you can put it. It seems that sometimes, both in our preaching and in our devotional service life in general, though we might be trying our best with humility, tolerance, and offering respect as much as we can, there's still so much opposition from people or from the environment. How can we overcome this? Srila, that opposition will help us to more intensively search for a higher plane. The decision, the absolute decision about what comes to us, that comes from the upper level, and it will help us to search for the higher plane more intensely. We'll have to examine ourselves whether the path I've taken, is it only imagination, or is any reality there? Krishna is everything, and he protects his devotees, quote unquote. Such statement, is it only theoretical? Or is it real? We must make experiments with this truth in our own life, and we will make progress step by step. Such tests will be extended to us by Krishna himself. Do you have faith in me as absolute, or in any other party, that they are your master? Is your faith only lip deep? When you say that Krishna is everything, he is over all, is it a lip-deep statement, or does it really come from your heart and conscience? To say nothing can be done without his consent, nothing can happen without his will, is this all imaginary propaganda, or is it real? Is it a reality to live in and live on, or only something to preach? Okay, so that's, and then, what was it? It's called intensified search, and then real life within. To be always eager for the fight, that is not a very high stage. What? Right. Yeah, because sometimes, and in spiritual missions and the preachers, it's all about fighting, going out there, fight with Maya, preach. It's good, the motivation, the inspiration, it's good to preach to help people, but it shouldn't be coming from an egoic plane. to see how much I can test myself, to see how strong I am to defeat, the opposition and like that. Because there's been examples when devotees have been in a situation and they've actually been very much harmed and even killed. And actually they could have avoided that. Now, there's two ways to look at that. One is, for example, it happened in Africa when there was some revolution and the rebel soldiers attacked the temple, and the devotees were hiding. Some hid, some went outside and hid in the trees, and just scattered. I think one was hiding under the Vyasa sun and everything. So basically, then the ones who sort of stood their ground and faced them down, they were arrested and taken to the riverbank and machine gunned and killed. Yeah, and one lady called Tridandi Devi, she tried to stop the soldiers, by grabbing the gun, and they shot her first. So it's very tragic. It's in a book. Yeah. But my point is, so they were like martyrs for the cause, and you always have martyrs in every faith tradition, every religion, and that's very noble, and it's an example to others that prepare to actually give their life, for the cause. But then on the other side, you say, well, if you would have somehow got away from that situation, then you can live to serve another day, another place, another time. If your life is cut short when you have energy to give and serve, that's also not good. So, but you'd have to be in the situation before you can make a judgment and say you should do that or you should do that. It's a very something that could only be decided in the moment. So, but he's saying here, to be always eager for the fight, that's not a very high stage, but to ignore the fight, my environment, that which surrounds me, let it go on in its own way, and I should be busy with my own things, my own duties. The opposing elements, they will come as a consequence of my previous life's actions. Let them come, but to my back, not in my front. Right. So I put a footnote here, it says, Srila Maharaj here shows us another level, ultimately a higher level of adjustment with the environment. As he says, the opposing elements will come as a result of my previous actions. Let them come, I will go on with my service. He would also often say, don't blame the environment. And he had a nicely nuanced version of the English proverb, a bad workman quarrels with his tools. That is, a bad workman quarrels with his stools. Stool comes as a result of what one has eaten. What is the point of quarrelling with it? That is only a waste of energy. The positive course is to change one's eating habits. So talking about karma, karmic reactions. But we will show our back to them, and many wounds may come there. But in the front, there will be peace and Krishna. We will progress towards that side, towards him. We will think, the results of my previous activities, they've come to get their satisfaction, and they may attack me, but that will be from behind. Ignoring them, I shall make progress forwards towards my Lord. Yeah, so not so much making big arrangements to protect oneself from one's negative karma or the environment. In another book, Divine Aspiration, somebody asked the question, what about astrology and these things, where the Kavach, the Shinga Kavach, Narayan Kavach, so many things, these things, right? And he says, that may be done for the time being, but it's not the highest. The highest is the bhajan, worship to the Lord. Not trying to take help from various aspects of the environment to protect oneself, but that will come automatically through one's worship and one's service. But it can be done in the meantime. But then he gives the example, for example, like astrology. He takes it in another way here, and he says, but for the people in general, like an astrologer can say, oh, I'll show you so many things in your chart. And if that person, that astrologer person is a devotee, and then the person they're talking to has faith in them, that's good for them. Do you know what I mean? Indirectly, though he's maybe talking about astrology, but that's getting them into the fold, into the connection, in an indirect way. So it's favourable. It's not itself bhakti or devotion, but it's anukul. It's favourable towards devotion. So Krishna is everything, but that must be realised as truth within me. Otherwise, what value does such a statement have? It would only be lip-deep propaganda. There must be life within us to back the preaching. The words that come from our mouth must be backed by spiritual realisation that Krishna is all in all. So yes, from another point of view, of course, preaching increases your faith, because what you're preaching about, even you may understand it or not understand it fully, but the benefit also comes to you, to the preacher. The realization comes, as you give out, so more is given. So there's that aspect also. But here he's making the point, not just to be always thinking we have to be preaching for the sake of it. Because preaching can take different forms also. Not necessarily even directly talking Hari Katha, Krishna Katha. We say example is better than precept. A person may say many things, but their life, how they live, their being, their essence, and their existence, what you are is more important than what you say, or even what you do sometimes. So like to be a devotee means to be like that, to really believe that and have faith in that about Krishna. And so then, are you with me? Shall I carry on?
Yeah.
Okay. Just on this point, now he's going to talk about something which is to show you again a subtle distinction. Okay, I'll just read it. It's called a Manipur incident. There is a history which occurred here in India over 100 years ago during the time of British rule in Manipur. At that time, all the residents of Manipur state, including the king, were Vaishnavites, disciples descending from Narottam Thakur. One Indian army general, his name was General Tikendrajit, wanted to overthrow the influence of the British in Manipur, and he was using as his military depot the compound of the Radha Govinda temple there. The British received some intelligence about this, and a military officer was sent to investigate. But the Raj, the king of Manipur, did not allow that man, a European and a militia, to enter into the temple compound. So I felt that needed a small footnote about militia. You always think of that as something really awful and disgusting. Milech refers to non-Aryan peoples, here referring not to a particular human race as such, but to those who do not observe behaviours according to Vedic or similarly developed socio-spiritual principles. More specifically, those accustomed to cow killing, which from a Vedic view is considered barbarian, uncivilized. So he wasn't allowed to enter, right? However, he forcibly entered, and General Tikendradit had him murdered, killed at once. Then a British force was sent to capture the depot with special instructions that the temple compound, which had been used for political and military purposes, must be demolished. The force of the bombardment by cannon shot was so heavy that the whole temple was destroyed, and the deities also were demolished. Hare Krishna. Our Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, related this story to us and explained the meaning. Because in such an incident, the general perception may be, what is this? The deities who've been worshipped for generations by the disciples of Narottam Thakur do not have the power to protect themselves? Krishna had no power to protect himself? Then the deities are all idols, dolls. But Prabhupada explained it in another way. He asked, without the will of Krishna, nothing can happen. So, was it the will of Krishna that his worshipable figure should be destroyed by the shot of a cannon? If nothing can occur, even a straw cannot move, without the will of Krishna, then if such a great disaster was done, was that also by his will? Yes. Then why? First, he quoted this shloka, and it's from Padma Purana. I'll just read the translation. Whoever considers the deity of the Supreme Lord to be dead matter made out of wood, stone or metal, or the spiritual master, who is an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, to be an ordinary man who is prone to die, or the Vaishnava to be coming from some caste, or the water that washes the feet of the pure devotee, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be ordinary water, although such water has the potency to destroy all the evils of the age of Kali, or who considers the holy name of the Supreme Lord as mantras, all mantras dedicated to him, which are able to destroy all sin, to be ordinary sounds, or thinks the Supreme Lord of all, Lord Vishnu, to be on the same level as demigods, has a hellish mentality. Whoever thinks in this way is certainly a resident of hell. Unquote. So strong words from the Padma Purana. And then Guru Maharaj is saying, we generally identify as spiritual truth that which comes down in this world to help us in a particular form, such as the deity. That is given in the scriptures, and we are encouraged to see in that way. But as our Guru Maharaj explained, at the same time, that is not the same as the wholesale spiritual reality. So to do away with our wrong conception that what we see, the deity, that, quote, it is Krishna, unquote, to demolish that wrong idea, this was done, the destruction of the deity, by Krishna's own will. Is it clear? And the devotee says, yes, Maharaj. I don't know if it's clear to you then. So it's a little subtle thing, because that means if the deity was destroyed, then there's no God anywhere in the world. It's gone, you know. But what about all the other deities and all the other temples? They're still there. People are still worshipping them. They're still giving so many blessings and so on. So he's going to explain the conception of Sri Vigraha, like the deity form of the Lord. In the deity, the Lord and the connection of the conscious spiritual plane have come to this mundane plane of our sense experience. So the deity should not be neglected or reckoned as an idol. Outwardly, if we exercise our physical senses, the Sri Murti may be of stone or wood or any mineral substance, but we are not to look at that. We should try to see that the Lord is attracted here by the affection and love of the sadhus. As with the purifying capacity in Ganges water, so the purifying presence of the Sri Vigraha is independent of our physical senses and calculative mind. It transcends all the stages of knowledge which can be collected from sense experience. At the same time, however, the deity conception, the presence of the Lord in this form, is considered to be, quote unquote, primary, the lowest. The deity is a presence of the Lord, but in a, quote unquote, gross way. Above that is the Shastra, the scripture. And when we can trace the existence of the Lord in the heart of the devotees, our position becomes higher. We move to a nearer realization of Godhead. In the Vaishnava, the truth is animated more than in the Vigraha, the deity, the Tirtha, holy place of pilgrimage, because that was in the previous chapter all about the Tirtha. You know, it's one of the divine forms, the holy Tirtha. Or the Shastra, the scripture. We find a direct connection with Krishna and the consciousness of a Vaishnava. Faith in the devotees, the Vaishnavas, grants us the most substantial help. The devotees are above even the Shastra, the scriptures. There are some who want to know about Krishna only from the Shastra. In the almanac, it is written that this year so much rain is expected, so much rain will come. But if we press the almanac, will a drop of water ooze out of it? Right? No. The Shastra is something like that. It says, do this, do that. But the Shastra cannot give us Krishna. First we get the direction from Shastra. Then we are to do as it advises. We are to practice. there's a very long note here about the Shastra. I've said, though he's saying, that first is the Vigraha, primary, and above is the Shastra, and above again is the devotee, the sadhu, the Vaishnava. But I said, this having been said, in one sense, Shastra, scripture, is preeminent. As one Acharya has put it, books are the basis. Indeed, Srila Maharaj himself was renowned for his deep love for and understanding of the scriptures. He was awarded the title Shastra Nipun by his guru for his abilities in this regard. Traditionally, in any spiritual discussion between scholars in India, any point put forward would have to be supported by scriptural quotation, chapter and verse, or it would not even be taken seriously. Okay, so then I'm talking about the Veda, divine word, and its importance, and so on. Just so that somebody, reading this would say, oh, we don't need the Shastra, then just go to the sadhu bus. Don't need Shastra, don't need Vigraha. So first we get the direction from Shastra, then we are to do as it advises, we are to practice. Oh, sorry. But still, we are mainly helpless when searching with this method or that method. Practically, we should come in connection with the service of a Vaishnava, meaning even with the worship of the deity and the study of Shastra, he's saying practically we're helpless in the sense that really and substantially, where are we going to experience divinity when we come in touch with it in the heart of a Vaishnava, right? Okay, practically we should come in connection with the service of a Vaishnava. I am to serve, but I can't come directly in connection with him, with the Lord. So, who can I serve? The deity form of the Lord, the Vigraha, is there. The Shastra is there. But in a sense, these are superficial. The real substance we find in a Vaishnava, in his heart. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Those who know Mahabharata will be very familiar with that verse. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. This line occurs in a verse from Mahabharata, Vanapava 3:13, 117. The verse says essentially, the real truth, Dharma, that which is in the most essential way, or that which holds or supports the soul, is hidden in the heart of the great souls, the devotees. Thus Srila Maharaj says here, the real substance we find in a Vaishnava, in his heart. This verse was spoken by the Pandava Yudhisthira in answer to the question, what is Dharma? That is, where is the truth? This was put to him by Yamaraj, the god of death, who had taken the form of a lake bird to test him. It was one of 100 essential questions. What is the news? What is the most astonishing? Who is happy? To all of which Yudhisthira gave penetrating, wonderful answers, and thus highly satisfied Yamaraj. So in answer to that, what is Dharma? What is truth? Maharaj Yudhisthira said, Tarko Pratishta, Shrutayo Vibhina, Nashabhishya Jasya Matam Nabhinam, Dharmasya Tattvam Nihitam Guhayam, Mahajana Jena Gata Sapanta. Srila B.S. Govindamaj, Srila Gurudev, concisely translates, reasoning is inconclusive. The scriptures are of many varieties. One whose conception is not distinctive cannot become a rishi, spiritual professor. True Dharma is thus secretly concealed. Therefore, the way of the Mahajans, great souls, is the path. Answering first in the negative, Yudhisthira said to the bird, Tarko Pratishta, Sir, the truth cannot be ascertained and cannot be understood by argument. Argument may go on for endless time, and that based also not on speculation, but on the Vedas themselves, and the various commentaries and opinions of the sages based thereon. The sages of different qualities, backgrounds, and schools of thought will all see from their own perspectives and will give their evidence as filtered accordingly, and that must be partial at best. But the truth is nirgun, devoid of mundane or material qualities, It is not subject to any such treatment or process and cannot be captured thereby. No amount of arguments can bring it out. It is a secret thing, a hidden treasure. It is independent of the intellectual attempt. How can intellect capture spirit? It is not possible. Dharmasya tattvam nitam guhayam. How then? Yudhishthira Maharaj said that you can find that hidden treasure, the truth, only in the heart of the devotee of the Lord, Mahajan. Why? Because the Lord himself is living there. He is living truth. Sri Krishna told Narada Rishi in Srimad Bhagavatam, I am not where the yogis are meditating, where the charity givers are giving. I am where my devotee is loving me. He is always praising and singing about me, worshipping me, adoring me, heart and soul. Krishna reveals himself to his pure devotee. He says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that he is revealing knowledge of himself to him because you are my very dear friend. See 10.1, 1864, 1865. He openly declares that he has no independence from the will of his devotee, as in the case of Ambarish Maharaj and Devasa Muni, Aham Bhakta Paradina, Bhagavatam 9.463. In fact, he enjoys himself playing within his devotees' hearts. And that's in the Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajan. Tamaridai Sada Govinda Vishram, Govinda Kaina Mora Vaishnav Paran. You are resting, relaxing in the heart of your devotee. Srila Govinda Maharaj comments, Yudhishthira Maharaj said, we cannot take the advice of the Vedas directly. Our store of knowledge is very limited, and the knowledge given in the Vedas is very vast. The Vedas explain Pratyaksha Gyan, sensory knowledge, Paroksha Gyan, collective knowledge, Aparoksha Gyan, subtle knowledge, and Adhokshaja Gyan, transcendental knowledge. That's all in another chapter, by the way. It's called the five kinds of knowledge. So it's reference back to that. Also, the many rishis who describe Vedic knowledge present many different interpretations of it and are not always perfect. Thus, the jiva souls become confused. They cannot find the truth with only the scriptures, the differing opinions of the rishis, and their own minds. To find the proper conception, we must follow the path of the Mahajans, the great souls in whose hearts the truth is living. That quotation is from a book called Revealed Truth, which is available. It's a beautiful book, very, very good book. If you had to read one book about Krishna consciousness, that would be a very good choice. It's really good one. So Mahajan, who are the Mahajans then? Great soul, Mahajan. He refers specifically to Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. Although all great devotees can be considered Mahajans, in Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.20, Vyasadeva indicated 12 Mahajans specifically: Lord Brahma, Narada Rishi, Lord Shiva, the four Kumaras, Kapila Dev, Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka Raj, Bhishma Dev, Bali Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami, and Yamaraj. These 12 and their teachings on devotional service are described throughout the scriptures. Their primary qualification is that they are devotees of the Lord, while the Mahajans give the primary and essential teachings of the Vedic devotional lineage, similar somewhat to the role of the 9 principal gurus of the Sikhs or the 33 doctors of the Roman Catholic Church in their own traditions. For the practicing devotee, it is very helpful to have shiksha, spiritual advice and guidance and example closer to home. That is, as embodied in a living teacher. This brings us back again to the prime importance of the sadhu, the saint, in relation to the more passive advice of the Shastra, the scripture. Okay, and I'm going to go back to text. How long have we got? 2 o'clock?
Usually we finish at RT at 2:30.
Okay, well I won't go on that long, but just on this point, I put in a nice quotation. It's from a book called A Path Through the Desert by Father Ansel Grun. He's a Benedictine monk. And he's commenting on the, it's called the Apothegmata Bhakti, sayings of the Desert Fathers. And these people populated deserts of Sinai in Egypt in the 1st to the 4th centuries, mainly. And they've been very carefully preserved, particularly by the Eastern Orthodox tradition, in a book called the Philokalia. So he's commenting on this point, about the importance of the living sadhu. Someone asked Abba Paisius, "What should I do about my soul? Because it is insensitive and doesn't fear God." Fear, not meaning in the sense of being afraid of. Like in the biblical quotation, fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It means to have an awareness, a consciousness of the Lord as omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, etc. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Okay. So he asked him, well, how do I get closer to God? He said to him, "Go and join a man who fears God and live near him. He will teach you too to fear God." And he, Father Grun comments, "An encounter with a mature person often provides the best form of schooling. This applies also to the spiritual life. The young monk who comes to see Abba Paisius has certainly heard much about God. He has had a religious education, but the words about God do not penetrate into his heart. His heart remains unmoved. He doesn't allow himself to be touched by God. It would make no sense for him to read more or reflect more on God. Everything would remain in the head. It is not much use learning spiritual techniques. The will alone cannot open the heart to God and induce it to fear him or feel his presence. When we go to school with someone who fears God, who allows themselves to be touched by God in their heart, then our heart too will slowly open up. But it will not be enough to just listen to the words of this person. We should also observe them closely to examine whether they live what they say. When we recognize that everything the other person does is in harmony, then something in ourselves too will be transformed. Then the longing within us is stirred, the longing to be touched by God, for our heart to be broken open. The closeness to a person who is penetrated by God in turn leads us to God. In them we get a glimpse of the light and the love of God which shines in them. Okay, so then I had to give, as another small note, a note on the note, right? Because I had said there that when we see that their actions and what they say is in harmony, you know, then we see. But that may also not always be the case. So do what I say, not what I do. They might tell you that. So it says, as a caveat, here I've put, Vaishnava teachings warn us not to judge the devotee by his or her external symptoms, or not by these alone. They are one kind of indicator, but the substance of the devotee is not always reflected in the manner of their form. And related to this, close personal proximity to a pure devotee on the part of a neophyte practitioner may indeed not always be helpful for them. Since familiarity breeds contempt, through mundane vision they may see only the apparent material aspects of the devotee. So, believing them not to be spiritual, but material and contemptible, they will make offences, even if only mentally. This results, since such behaviour in relation to his pure devotee is not pleasing to the Lord, in denser coverings by material illusion over that person's soul, and in turn their own distancing from devotional service. So that's just a point I wanted to make there also. So we talk about an adjusted relation, right, with the very pure souls, you know, like coming close to the sun, too close, you'll be burned. You just can't take it, you'll be burned and you go away. Or if you're too far away, you're not getting heat and light. You can also go away. So you have to be just like this, right? So, as saying Bhakti Saraswat, religion means proper adjustment. So, into this now. So Vigraha, the deity form, first, primary, then Shastra, and then devotee, sadhu. So that was the commentary on the Dharmasya Tattva Nitam Goyam. The truth is found in living in the heart of the devotee. The Krishna conception, Krishna as he is, all knowledge and love, we find living in the heart of a Vaishnava who directs all his activities towards his service. Misconception demolished. Okay, so now going back to that story about how the deity was destroyed. Right? So this verse, Ache Vishnu Shila Deya, the one I read, one who thinks the deity to be made of wood and stone, or thinks the Vaishnava to be material, or to think the holy foot wash, is not able to remove sins, etc., has a hellish mentality. So in that verse it says that by knowing things only superficially, we are really pilgrims to hell. What we see, Krishna in the form of stone, the deity, Krishna is there, no doubt. But he's not limited there, limited to such a form. So our Guru Maharaj explained that to do away with such a conception, Krishna takes such a bold step, allowing his deity to be broken, to show that I am not your sense conceived, I conceived stone form, I am something else. You with me? It is to elevate you to a higher understanding from the lowest position of understanding the nature of the deity, that is, the presence of divinity as the deity, to demolish that limited conception in you and give you a higher type of understanding. It is something like the national flag. The flag represents the honor of the nation, but supposing in war the flag is captured by the enemy and trodden underfoot. Of course, when the flag is dishonored, it means the nation's honor is demolished. But still, we have to think that the nation remains. It exists, though its honor, its freedom and its independence, which is represented by the flag, is destroyed. Even when the flag is torn to pieces or trampled underfoot, burned to ashes or otherwise destroyed, the nation's integrity and independence is there. And again that nation may come back and conquer their foe. In this way, though the flag represents the country and its freedom, it does not represent the whole of its freedom. The nation's freedom, its independent existence, is not contained, is not limited there. So the Vigraha, the deity form of the Lord, is necessary. It is a symbol given to us, and we are encouraged to see that it is the Lord, it is He Himself, and not otherwise. But still we must try to go further in our conception, that He is not what we can conceive with our senses. He's not limited to that. We have to differentiate there. Progress always means elimination and new acceptance. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that we should always be free, unprejudiced, to accept truth. We should always be expectant, by comparative study, to understand revealed truth in deeper ways. That's the end of that chapter. And I'll just finish here with this footnote I put there, because he talks about the deity, the tirtha, the devotee, and one other?
Scripture.
The scripture, but not about the name in that particular section. So the four items discussed in this chapter, the devotee, the scripture, the Vigraha, deity, and the holy place, are all understood as manifestations of the Lord. Of preeminent importance in the life of the devotee also is Nam, the holy name of the Lord, which is a non-different manifestation of the Lord Himself. Along with Sadhu Sangha, association with pure devotees, the chanting of the holy name is the most important item of devotional service. Though the truth of the holy name, Nam Tattva, is not specifically discussed in this chapter, this most important subject has been elaborately and beautifully elucidated upon by Srila Sridhar Maharaj elsewhere in many of his talks and writings. See especially, for example, in the book Search for Sri Krishna, Reality is Beautiful, pages 133 to 173, where he talks all about that. So that's just a small sample of the book, and I hope it was helpful, illuminating. But the idea being there that life is progressive, dynamic and progressive, positive and progressive immortality, and not static. So to be always moving, always learning, and there's no end to that. And even when the soul attains our eternal Swarup, Siddhi, perfected spiritual form in the spiritual world with Krishna one day or other, that's also not the end, because then our service form, because in the spiritual the form and the service are one, there's no distinction. Whereas in this world, the form of the person and what they do, it's like two completely different things, right? So you might have you might have a man who was very gentle at home. In fact, I even saw that one time. I was just reading some books, and the man, he was a butcher, and he invited me, and I went round to his home later, chatting with him, and he took me to the bottom of his garden, and he had an apiary. Is it called an apiary with birds? You know, apiary. Aviary. What's an apiary? That's bees. Bees. Yeah. An aviary, and big, sort of huge cage thing with all these little finches, African finches, canaries, all twittering. He went in there and he took on this thing and he's stroking. He's a butcher. So the form of the man and his activity completely different. In the spiritual, the form and the service is the same. So somebody who wants to serve Krishna as a friend, in a friendly relationship, they get the form suitable to that, like a gopa, a cowherd boy, or a guardian, parental, or gopi, or a servant, etc. So, why was I saying that? Oh yeah, so that's final in that sense, your eternal service and form. But then the service itself is continuing infinitely, with infinite inspiration, how to serve the Lord. There's no end to that. So everything is eternal in that way. But that, of course, is the infinite eternal, the absolute eternal. And here is the relative eternal in the material world. Everything is temporary and changing, but when the whole thing is finished, the end of the creation is dissolved, again a new creation will come, and that continues for some time, and again is dissolved, then again a new one. So in that sense, eternal, but it's a relative eternal, not the absolute infinite eternal, which you have a relativity there, like in the way of perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. It is not understandable, because perfect means you couldn't get more than that. It's perfect. It's perfect. But it's more perfect, most perfect. So in the spiritual, like that. So everything is there already, perfection, but there's a kind of a gradation there. But it's based on harmony and love with the center. And here, the relativity, the differences are based on ego, mainly. The hierarchical system where the higher suppresses and is contemptible of the lower. But there, it's not like that. You have a kind of hierarchy, but it's all based on love, connection. And it's all intimately enfolded and integrated. So each so-called higher or more perfect state includes the lower, so-called lower, but transcended also, something plus. And the next one includes all of that, plus something plus, and so on. So in that regard, we're told that the Adi Rasa, Madhurya Rasa, relationship of conjugal love with Krishna is the highest or most ultimate, because it's all-inclusive. Inside there you have everything. You have Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. So the kind of spiritual conception that Guru Maharaj talks about in his writings a lot. So, thank you. Right now. So, on to the next thing. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
So yes, thank you, Maharaj, for that. We will be going through this at more. Actually, I've been going through it at home with my wife, and we've been kind of devouring it. So, when we finished the books that we're presently discussing, then this will be a new one that we'll be discussing. And it is a wonderful thing that since Guru Maharaj passed away in 1988, and now it's 2024, and still new light and new revelations coming, new books coming from his teaching. It just goes to show that those teachings are not just of their time, but they are eternally relevant to us and eternally helpful to us, and to let that ocean of his thinking, spiritual thinking, let that increase more and more and more. And so we're very grateful to Maharaj for bringing this book to life for our benefit. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask Maharaj about the book, or anything that we've heard today, or Krishna consciousness in general? Maharaj isn't always with us every week, so it's take advantage of that sadhu sangha. It's very important for our spiritual development.
Maharaj, are you planning to on writing more books?
Well, so when I finished this, I thought in the Light of Love and Devotion Part 2, who knows. I've got as I said, I've got the archive, so it's there. And who knows, in the future.
All the three volumes
if things come together in the right way.
In this book, it contains all in this book.
Yeah, it's all his teachings, yeah.
All the three.
I just give him some notes at the end of each chapter.
Like golden world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is entirely new.
Oh, it's all new. Yeah,
it's not been published before.
Not in any other books. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, there may be small, like a couple of lines or sentence. See, sometimes when you're looking at the talks,
Yes.
and he's talking on a certain theme, and then you remember there's another talk in which precisely on that theme, that's going to perfectly fit in with what he's saying here. So you may import that, yeah, and put it in seamlessly, like that. Yeah, but it's all new, hasn't been published before, any of it that I know of.
Well, just a minute ago you were saying, you know one person, he was a butcher, and he also caring for the bird.
Oh.
So we are not body, we are soul, so the soul is doing, killing and looking after. So how come?
Jalaparat became a good devotee when he learned, don't have to kill anyone now. I'm going to Harinam.
Yeah, well, there's many examples of that, isn't it?
That's a very good example.
Mugrari, the hunter.
I don't like killing, but now I will stop doing it.
No, but he didn't stop, he was a butcher. Then he goes to work,
This guy,
killing, and when he comes home, he's killing.
Yeah, well, I was getting the feeling when I was seeing him doing that, I was getting the feeling that maybe deep down, unconsciously, he knew what he was doing was wrong, and so he's trying to compensate for that, by being very caring, looking after these little creatures, feeding them and looking after them, like that. Could be.
In the end, he stops that, doesn't he?
Huh?
In the end, he stops that and he becomes a good
Well, I hope so, yeah.
That's
If you go around and talk to him,
Maharaj is messy.
I got him in a couple of his press. That was ages ago.
psychologically that's called cognitive dissonance, isn't it?
Right.
So you can have two conflicting opinions and live with that in your own consciousness. It's like somebody would be a member of the RSPCA, support giving. I'm very, people say, don't they, in England especially, we're all a nation of animal lovers, but then they're queuing up at McDonald's for their hamburger without even a second thought. No, exactly.
Uncognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Can we buy this book at hard copy?
Yes, we have a box downstairs. It is available. And I'm sure once we finish that book, Maharaj can supply us with more. Once
Yeah,
we
I've got,
finish that
I've got
box.
1,000 copies. I've got the printing was and they're actually in a house. Well, I mentioned it in the beginning. You weren't here in Bournemouth.
Jai Sripad Bhakti Swarup Tridandi Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bhagya ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari